What's good, everybody? Old Papa G here, and back with more Shadowlands content for you guys. After today, it'll be 8 days until Shadowlands. So that means, including today, I'm gonna have 9 more class guides for you guys. In today's video, we're gonna be covering the Mage. Now, the majority of the video is gonna be focusing on Frost Mage. We're gonna be going over talent build meant for PvP, PvP talents as well. We're going to go over Covenant, Conduit, Soulbinds, and Legendary items. We're also going to go over the best races that you can be for Mage. Um, Before we really get into it, I just want to say I've been appreciating everybody that's been supporting my channel. I really, really greatly appreciate it. And anybody that subs to my channel, I would really, really like to thank all of you. So, again, thanks. I want to just say thank you to everybody. That being said, let's jump into it. Like I said, we're going to be focusing on Frost Mage. It is the preferred in almost all scenarios right now, meaning all PvP formats, like World PvP, Dueling, Arena, especially Arena, and Battlegrounds. The second best Mage would be Arcane. Originally, when Shadowlands Beta first came out, everyone thought that Arcane was going to be the preferred choice because they still had Temporal Shield, but with a couple of changes, giving more durability to Frost Mage, they also buffed their damage highly. So right now, Frost is definitely the way to go. Fire has seen big nerfs with all their borrowed power being gone, and they lost Temporal Shield, so they actually have the least durability out of all the mages, along with losing their main burst and losing the borrowed power from Reaping Flames. So right now, Frost is the way to go. Now, with all that, let's start off with the talent. So first off, you're going to pick Lonely Winter. I know it might come as a shock that you're replacing your Water Elemental with this talent, because obviously the Water Elemental gives you more control of the field, but because you have other abilities like Frost Nova, Ring of Frost, and just a lot of slows to begin with, you don't need your Frost Elemental anymore because of how much damage you're going to be getting in exchange. So, here it is. Lonely Winter. Replace your Summon Water Elemental with this passive ability. You can no longer summon your Water Elemental, but Frostbolt, Ice Lance, and Flurry deal 25% increased damage. Obviously, that's a big buff. You're going to notice a trend right now that Ice Lance, it's all about your Ice Lance, all about beefing up your Ice Lance and your Frostbolt. So because of that, and it also just got recently buffed in the patch notes maybe about 2-3 weeks ago. So because of all that, it's just all about beefing it up. Next up, just like in BFA, you're going to choose Shimmer. This is also done for all mages, not just Frost, all of them across the board. What it does is it replaces your Blink, teleports you 20 yards forward, unless something is in the way, obviously, could be really annoying sometimes. Unaffected by global cooldown, and castable while casting. So, you also get 2 charges of it. It literally is what Blink is, just you get 2 charges, so it's great. Next up, Incanter's Flow. Magical energy flows through you while in combat, building up to 20% increased damage, and then diminishing down to 4%. Increased damage cycling every 10 seconds. Again, now here we go with the more beef to your damage. Next up, there's a couple different choices here, but right now, like I said, since it's really all about your Ice Lance, this is the preferred choice. It's called Chain Reaction. It's a passive ability. Your Ice Lance against frozen targets increase the damage of your Ice Lances by 3% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. It's going to stack up to 5 times, and you're going to get a 15% damage bonus. So, we've only been through the first 4, and look at what we got here. 25% increase and 15% increase. Now we're already up to 40% increase on your Ice Lance. And I notice how it says frozen targets. It also works for Fingers of Frost. So obviously, Fingers of Frost basically makes the target frozen even if they're not frozen. Like, not literally, but it acts as if the target is frozen. So just keep that in mind. Next up, just like BFA again, we have Ring of Frost. This is a great ability. Summons a Ring of Frost for 10 seconds, and the target's location. Enemies entering the ring are incapacitated for 10 seconds, limited to 10 targets. When the incapacitator expires, enemies are slowed by 65%. This move is not only excellent for Arena for controlling the field, but it's also amazing for dueling. Now, unless you're in any 1v1 scenario, unless your opponent is stealthed, what you're going to do is you're going to open up with Polymorph and jump right into Ring of Frost and then burn them down with Frostbolt, which gets beefed up, you'll see later, on frozen targets and your Ice Lance, and then if it goes into a Ring of Frost proc after that, you could literally diminish a target within the first 10 seconds of the duel. So this is really an excellent thing to have. Next up, we have Comet Storm. Again, this is the preferred choice. With Frost Mage specifically, everything seems to be pretty clear cut. So Comet Storm calls down a series of 7 icy comets on and around the target that deal up to 1700 frost damage to all enemies within 6 yards of impact. And it's an instant ability, so it's not like Blizzard with the channel, all this stuff. Instant, so it's really nice to have. You could also catch stealth enemies off guard with this one if they're close to their teammate in arena, so keep that in mind as well. And lastly, again, Ray of Frost, there's no choice, you definitely want this. Channel an Icy Beam at the enemy for 4.4 seconds, dealing 696 frost damage every 0.9 seconds and slowing the movement by 60%. Each time Ray of Frost deals damage, its damage and snare increase by 10%, generates 2 charges of Ring of Frost. So again, this is just going all, it's just forming everything together. Giving you Fingers of Frost is helping you with your Ice Lance, so everything's just basing it around that Ice Lance. I also wanted to say, because I noticed one person said, you know, like, who am I or whatever. I just want you guys to know, I play this game a lot. You can look at all my accounts. I play a lot of BGs, I play a lot of Arena, but just so you know that I'm reliable and I have my integrity and everything like that, I get all of my information from MMO Champion, so you can fact check me on recent patch changes. I get it from Skill Cap, so again, you can fact check me, go on Skill Cap's YouTube, I highly recommend it. I also look at different pro players, I look at their builds, I see what people are doing. I also look at Stoops on another pro player on YouTube, so you could just fact check me. What I try to do is I try to make it easy for you guys. I take information from MMO Champion, I take it from Skill Capped, I take it from pro players, and I try to merge it all together in one video. Instead of you guys having to watch 5 different videos, I try to make it convenient. That way you could just all go to one video and it has a little bit of all their information and it's packed into one video. Instead of having to watch a 10-minute video here, a 15-minute video here, a 20-minute video there, I try to break it all into 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. So that way you guys know that everything I'm saying is reliable. So, next up, PvP talents. We have 3 things here. There is going to be one exception that you could swap in and out, but we'll get into that. So first up, concentrated coolness. Frozen Orb's damage is increased by 10% and is now castable at a location within 40 yards. Now, if you play Frost Mage, you would know that normally your Frozen Orb just goes forward. Wherever you're located, it's just going to shoot forward. This gives you more control. That's why you want this. You can place it exactly where you want, and it's very convenient. Next, Ice Form. This guild. Leave me alone. Ice Form. Replaces Icy Veins. Your body turns into ice, increasing your Frostbolt's damage by 30% and granting immunity to stuns and knockback effects last 12 seconds. Again, now we're beefing up Frostbolt. This also grants you immunity to stuns and knockbacks, so that's a really great additional piece. And obviously it lasts as long as Icy Veins normally last. Now lastly, this one is non-negotiable. Deep Shatter. Your Frostbolt deals 150% additional damage to frozen targets. Obviously that's a huge buff, and it's just really great to have. Now, some people have also been doing Kleptomania. Spell Steal now has a 30-second cooldown, but steals all spells from the target. This is also a great sub-in. My recommendation is, if you do want to use this, because it is something that is very, very good to have, I would swap out Ice Form. Again, it's really tough to choose between these 3 because now you're getting more control over your Frozen Orb, which is a really, really important move. Deep Shatter, this is a must. And this, not only is it increasing your Frostbolt's damage, but it's granting immunity to stuns in the last 12 seconds. So it's like really, really important. But again, if you had to choose, just pick between the 3, and Kleptomania is a good option as well. Now that we covered all the talents and everything like that, we're going to go into the best races. Then followed by that, we're going to do Covenants, Soulbinds, Conduits, and Legendary abilities, okay? So let's jump into that. So the first thing I'm going to cover to get it out of the way are the preferred races for Mage. Any Mage, whether it's Fire, Arcane, or Frost. If you're going to be Alliance, the preferred choice is definitely Human for the ability Will to Survive, which gets you out of all stun effects with a 3-minute cooldown, giving the ability to run 2 damage trinkets, which is going to increase your burst, which is definitely something that you would want as a mage, especially. Next up for Horde, the best option is 100% Orc, without a doubt. First, it's for Blood Fury, which increases your intellect, which hence increases damage. And what it's really about is the passive ability Hardiness. What Hardiness does is reduces stun duration on you for 20%, which is a really nice increase. Now that we got the races out of the way, we're going to jump into your Covenants. So out of the 4 choices for Covenants, for Mage, any Mage, Venthyr is definitely going to be the preferred option. I'm going to show you the person to choose and the Soulbind Conduit tree, and then we're going to get specifically into the abilities that you receive from Venthyr. So the person that you're going to choose for any mage is definitely going to be Naja the Mistblade. This is the exact build that you're going to use. You're going to end up receiving 3 Potency Conduits and 1 Finesse Conduit. Definitely take a picture or pause to look at this build, because this is the exact one that you're going to need. Obviously, the way Soulbinds and Conduits work is this is your Conduit build, and then when you pick Venthyr, you get your Soulbind abilities. The first thing we're going to cover are the Soulbind abilities. So the main reason mages choose Venthyr is for this ability right here, Door of Shadows. Door of Shadows acts similar to a Blink and Warlock portals. Basically, you get to teleport through to the other side, which is giving you increased mobility, which obviously is great for a mage, whether it's getting out of a melee's that's in your face, or giving you extra mobility just to lean back further and cast harder. So this is the number 1 reason, and now we're going to get into the other ability that you get for choosing Venthyr. So the other ability you're going to receive for picking Venthyr is Mirrors of Torment, and I'm going to go into what it does. It conjures 3 mirrors to torment the enemy for 20 seconds. Whenever the target casts a spell or ability, a mirror is consumed to inflict shadow damage, and their movement and cast speed are slowed by 15%, this is nice because it's unusual to see something that's going to slow the movement speed as well as the cast speed. The final mirror will instead inflict shadow damage to the enemy, rooting and silencing them for 4 seconds. So you're getting a slowdown, a reduced cast time, and a silence all out of one ability, and it only has a 1.5 minute cooldown and a 1.5 second cast. So this is definitely another great piece for mages to have. So now we're going to go over 3 Soulbind abilities that you get from the tree, followed by the Conduit abilities, and then end it off with the legendaries now that you get your base Venthyr abilities out of the way. The first one is Agents of Chaos. What it does is it's a Door of Shadows, disorients all nearby enemies at the target's location for 6 seconds when you appear. Obviously, any disorient is really nice to have for a mage. It's just increasing to their CC arsenal. Next up, we have Familiar Predicaments. The duration of incoming interrupts, snare, and root effects are reduced by 25%. This is really, really critical for a mage. First of all, stopping the interrupt by 25%, that way you could continue casting at a 25% deuce rate is really good. Another really good thing about it is root effects are really mage killers. Them getting stuck in place and getting hammered by melee is definitely not what you want, so this is a big, big one to have. And for our last Soulbind ability, we have Thrill Seeker. While in combat, you gain a stack of Thrill Seeker every 2 seconds, or 4 stacks on killing an enemy. At 40 stacks, Thrill Seeker is consumed to grant you Euphoria, increasing your haste by 20% for 10 seconds. Thrill Seeker decays rapidly while you are not in combat. So obviously, any increased haste is going to increase your casting time to make your Frostbolt faster. Like I mentioned earlier, Frost Mage in particular, everything is based around their Frostbolt increased damage and their Ice Lance damage. So, because that's one of your main 2 moves, anything that make it faster or hit harder is 100% needed for Frost Mage. So now we're going to get into the Conduit abilities. As I mentioned earlier, you're going to pick 3 Potencies and 1 Finesse. Here are all 5 of your Potency choice Conduits. As you can see, I crossed out the 2 that aren't in your main choices, so I'm going to go over the other 3. And these are all Potencies. So first off, we have Siphoned Malice. Each time a Mirror of Torment is consumed, your spell damage is increased by 10% for 10 seconds, stacking 3 times. A 30% increase on spell damage is massive. Like I mentioned, Mirror of Torment is one of the main reasons why you pick Venthyr, so they go hand in hand together. Next up, Ice Bite. Increase the damage of Ice Lance against frozen enemies by 10%. Go figure. More stacking on Ice Lance. Another 10% increase. If you followed the talents in the beginning, that's a 40% increase just from talents, and now another 10%. So that's additional 50% just through talents and conduits. It's a big deal to have. And lastly, we're going to have Unrelenting Cold. Frozen Orb damage is increased by 10%. Again, more increased damage. Frozen Orb is one of the best cooldown abilities that mages have because it's proccing Fingers of Frost more often. It slows down enemies, and it also makes Fingers of Frost proc more often. Now for your only finesse conduit, you're going to pick Flow of Time. The cooldown of Blink is reduced by 1 second. Obviously, you pick Shimmer. Because you get 2 charges of Shimmer, what it's actually doing is reducing the cooldown of each recharge for Shimmer. It's definitely good to have. It gets you out of a lot of situations or gets you further back for your casting, so anything that helps your Blink out is definitely crucial. So to end off the video, we're going to go over the legendary item for Frost Mages. Frost Mages have 3 legendary items to choose from, but as of right now, Freezing Winds is the best one to pick. So, while Frozen Orb is active, you gain Fingers of Frost every 2.5 seconds. While Frozen Orb is not active, each Frost Bolt reduces the cooldown of Frozen Orb by 2.5 seconds. So this is just all going around the Frozen Orb. Anything to proc Fingers of Frost more often is crucial. That way the target doesn't need to be frozen and you still get big, hard crits from Ice Lance. That's why right now this is the preferred choice, because it increases your burst damage, higher DPS, and it could really shoot down a target quickly, especially when you're around the right team. Alright guys, so that's it for today's video covering Frost Mage PvP guide. If you guys have been enjoying my content, I would really appreciate any sub or like to my video. I really do greatly appreciate everyone that has been supporting me. And I'm going to be making a class guide every day until Shadowlands comes out. Any changes that happen, I will be making sure to make new videos to correct the changes and keeping you guys as up to date as I can. And as always, guys, thank you for tuning in.